welcome to The Explainer. Today we're tackling something, well, huge. How do you even begin to organize every single living thing on Earth? We're diving into the fascinating story of biological classification, this incredible centuries-long quest to build a library of life.
Seriously, just try to wrap your head around that number. Over 8 million species. Without a system to organize them, biology would be like a library the size of a city, with all the books just thrown in a giant pile. It would be total chaos. So how did we get from that chaos to an ordered system? Well, it's a story full of discovery, some serious debate, and a whole lot of revisions.
Okay, let's dive in. This whole idea of sorting living things, it's not new at all. I mean, for our earliest ancestors, it was literally a matter of life and death. You absolutely had to know, can I eat this plant? Will that animal eat me? Is this wood good for building a shelter? That right there, that was the very first, most practical map of life.
Now, one of the first people to really try and make this a science was the ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle. He started pretty simply, looking at obvious traits, like does an animal have red blood? Yes or no? Super basic, right? But hey, it was a start. He was laying the first paving stones for a road that, centuries later, a guy named Carl Linnaeus would turn into a highway.
Right, let's fast forward to the 18th century. Enter Carl Linnaeus, a name you might know as the father of modern taxonomy. He looked at all the biological chaos and said, okay, I've got a clean, elegant solution. And his solution was a two-kingdom system. And Linnaeus' system was, well, it was dead simple. If it was green and didn't really move, it was a plant. If it moved around and ate other things, it was an animal. Done. And you know what? This super straightforward approach actually dominated biology for more than 200 years. But, as you can probably guess, nature isn't quite that neat and tidy. And then came a real game changer, the microscope. All of a sudden, scientists could see this entire hidden world of microscopic life. And these tiny organisms, they just didn't fit. They weren't really plants, and they weren't really animals. These little misfits threw a huge wrench in the works, forcing everyone to go back to the drawing board. Yeah, this is where that simple two-kingdom system really started to fall apart. For one thing, it couldn't tell the difference between simple cells without a nucleus, what we call prokaryotes, and more complex cells that have one, the eukaryotes. And what on earth do you do with fungi? I mean, they look kind of like plants, but they don't make their own food. The simple map of life was becoming a tangled mess. So in 1969, along comes our hero for this part of the story, a biologist named R.H. Whitaker. He basically said, look, we're looking at this all wrong. We need to go deeper than just what things look like. He argued that we should be classifying life based on more fundamental stuff, like how their cells are built and how they get energy. And this idea led to his groundbreaking five-kingdom system.
The genius of Whitaker's approach was really in the questions he was asking. He was looking at the absolute building blocks of life. Are the cells simple or complex? Is it a single-celled organism or made of many? Is it a producer, a consumer, or a decomposer? By asking these questions, he created a much more nuanced and, frankly, a much more accurate map of life. And boom. Here you can see just how elegant this solution was. All those misfits that didn't have a home before, now they did. The bacteria, those simple prokaryotes, they got their very own kingdom, Monera. That super diverse group of single-celled eukaryotes became Protista. And fungi, finally, they were recognized as their own unique kingdom, totally separate from plants. It just made so much more sense.
All right, so now that we have this new, much improved map, let's take a quick tour through these five kingdoms of life.
We're going to start with the oldest and most widespread kingdom, Monera. These are the bacteria, the tiny powerhouses of our planet. Their cells are simple, yeah, no true nucleus, but do not let that fool you. These organisms are incredibly resilient. They're found everywhere, from the soil in your backyard to boiling hot springs and deep-sea vents. Next up is Protista, which I like to think of as the miscellaneous drawer of the biological world. It's this incredibly diverse collection of single-celled organisms with complex cells. If it's a single-celled eukaryote and doesn't quite fit as a plant, animal, or fungus, it probably ends up here. But they are a crucial evolutionary link between the simpler bacteria and the other, more complex kingdoms. You might see a mushroom and think plant, but they belong to their very own kingdom, fungi. And unlike plants, they can't make their own food.
Instead, they absorb nutrients from their surroundings, playing this vital role as nature's great recyclers. And get this, their cell walls are made of a tough material called chitin, the very same stuff that makes up the exoskeletons of insects and crabs. How cool is that? Okay, now we come to a kingdom we all know and love, Plantae. These are the green powerhouses of our planet, the producers. They use sunlight to create their own food through photosynthesis. And from the tiniest mosses to the tallest trees, they form the absolute foundation of most ecosystems here on Earth.
And last but not least, that brings us to our own kingdom, Animalia. We are the consumers, the movers and shakers of the world. The big thing that sets us apart is that our cells don't have those rigid walls. And that one detail allows for the incredible diversity of movement, form, and complex sensory systems that you see all across the animal world, from the flight of a bird to the thoughts in your own brain.
So you might be thinking, great, 5 kingdoms, everything has a neat little box, problem solved. Well, not quite. The natural world is always full of surprises. Turns out there are some really bizarre biological entities out there that defy classification and kind of blur the very definition of what it even means to be alive.
Let's talk about viruses. These things are the ultimate biological mystery. Are they alive or not? It's a serious debate. Outside of a living cell, they're basically inert crystals, no more alive than a grain of sand. But once they infect a host, they become these tiny, terrifying pirates, hijacking the cell's machinery to make more and more copies of themselves.
And if you think viruses are strange, get ready for viroids. These are even simpler. They're just a single naked strand of RNA. No protective protein coat, nothing. Discovered back in 1971, these tiny infectious agents are a powerful reminder that in biology, you don't have to be big or complex to make a huge impact. And the weirdness doesn't stop there. Then you have prions, infectious agents made only of abnormally folded protein, no genetic material at all. And then there are lichens, which aren't even a single organism. They're a symbiotic team-up between a fungus and an alga, living and acting as one. So how do you classify that?
This all leads us to a really crucial takeaway. This system of classification, this map of life, it isn't set in stone. It's more like a living document, constantly being updated as we learn more about the world around us. The criteria we use to sort life have already changed so dramatically. We went from just simple appearance to cell structure to evolutionary history, and now with our incredible tools in genetics, our map of life is only going to get more detailed and more accurate.
In fact, the story has already moved on. Many scientists today use a 3-domain system which actually splits the old kingdom Monera into 2 totally separate domains. This creates an even more precise 6-kingdom view of life.
And that leaves us with a final thought. Biological classification isn't just about organizing what we already know. It's an active, ongoing quest that really reflects our ever-deepening understanding of life itself. Which makes you wonder, as we keep discovering new life and unlocking genetic secrets, what new kingdoms or domains might we uncover next?